Alright, welcome to first screencast for programming unit, for the programming unit for Information Technology 9. Today we're going to show you the basics of Visual Basic and Visual Studio. We're going to show you how to create something called a Hello World program, which is kind of tradition in programming languages. And we're also going to show you how to use the language, what the interface looks like, the IDE, and what an event is, and how to use a few of the different screen objects, or form objects rather. What I'd like you to do is to create a new Visual Basic program. So we're going to go to the Start menu and open up Visual Basic 2010 Express. And when the program launches, we are going to, let me just maximize this. Alright, so to create a new project, real simple. You either click on the New Project shortcut here, you can click on the New Project icon there, or you can choose File, New Project. They all do the same thing. This is the basic splash screen. There's lots of useful stuff here. You can open up an existing project by clicking on that one. Some of the recent demos or projects that you've worked on will be listed down here. For today, we're going to click on the New Project icon. And everything you do in this particular 3-week unit is going to be Windows Form application, so don't bother worrying about these other guys down here. For the name of this project at the bottom, we're going to use Hello World. And then I'm just going to click Enter. And then the Hello World form will pop up here. Now this is our Windows window. It's actually ready to go. There's nothing too fancy about it. This Windows window, we're going to hit the play button here, and it creates a Windows window. We can do all kinds of Windows window type things. We can change its dimensions. We can minimize it. We can maximize it. Double click on the taskbar, and that's pretty much it. And then we can close it, of course. We need to actually add some functionality to this though, because it's not really doing much for us. Alright, so with your IDE, we're going to edit our window, and we're going to add some stuff to it. We're going to add a couple of objects to the screen, and we're going to show you a few different things about click events and that sort of thing. So by default, your toolbox will be over here on the left-hand side, and it pops out, it flies out when you do a cursor over. But for now, what we want you to do is we want you to move the toolbox that's open and then just pin it here, please. If you click that little pin, the little push pin icon there, it's going to lock it open for you because we're going to need this a few times. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to grab something called a label object. This toolbox here, by the way, it includes all the Windows doodads and bits and bobs that you're going to use to create all of your programs, and some of these you'll probably recognize. Right? There's cursor buttons, pointers, checkboxes. These are all things that you've seen in Windows lots of times. Date and times, combo box pictures. Those are the drop-down boxes. We've got menu items. We've got rich text boxes, progress bars. These are all things that you see in Windows applications all the time. So for this particular application, we're going to use one of the easiest, simplest objects called a label, and just drag it on the screen. So there's your label item right there. It says label there. Big capital A is your icon. And a label is the kind of object that you use when you want to display text. In this case, we're going to change the text around a bit. So here's our form, here's our label. Make sure you've got the label highlighted, and then we're going to look at something called the Property Inspector. The Property Inspector is way over here on the right-hand side. I'm going to increase the size of this. Here's our Property Inspector. With our label here selected, these are the properties for our label, and there's a bunch of different things here to take a look at. For starters, the name of this particular object that we just created is called Label 1. And we're going to change that in a second, and I'll show you why in a bit. Some other things that you can change about this label is things like our background color. So right now, the default background color for the label is the color of the bits in and around the text, but inside the little selection handle. So the back color behind the text. You can set a border style, which right now we've set to nothing. Let's move it down here and change some of the more common ones. Here's the font for our text box. And if you click on the font object or font property down here, this little ellipsis pops up on the right hand side, and it gives us the chance to change different things. So for example, we're going to change the font to something a little more interesting. Let's choose Mistral, just kind of handwriting looking font. We're also going to select bold, and we're going to increase the size of this font. Let's set it to 36. What the heck? There we go. So there is our new label object. Doesn't say much right now. It still says label 1. And then we're going to scroll down to the bottom here. There's a whole bunch of other ones here as well. Location deals with where the label is on the screen, and we'll see more of that in later tutorials. What we want is size down here. It's the size of our label. We want to deal with our text property. This is the most common one you're going to deal with when we're dealing with the label. The text property itself just simply means what words are displayed in it. So in this case, we're going to set it to Hello World, with an exclamation mark at the end. Alright, we now have our very first Windows application created. When we launch this program, it doesn't do very much, but when we launch it, this is what we end up with. Here's your Windows window, and again, have all the same properties of a typical Windows window, and we can resize it. It says the word Hello World in the middle of the screen. Alright, that's not particularly interesting. Visual Basic, like a lot of other programming languages in the .NET visual kind of environment, are called event-driven programs. And what that means is they wait for something to happen before they run some code. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to create an event for this particular application where if you click on the message, it's going to change it to a different message. So how to get to the events and the code windows is simply, what we're going to do is we're going to select our label once like this, then we're going to double click on the label. And this toggles us over to the code view. Okay, now this particular part of the code view is, here's our label one. Oh, my mistake. We do have to change one thing. I'm going to delete this and go back to where we were. So here's our window. What we want to do before we play with the event is I'm going to change the name of this label so we can recognize it easier in our code. We're going to, with the label selected, scroll up to the top where it shows the name, and then we're simply going to change the name of our label to LBL for label message. Make sure you name your objects on your form meaningfully so that they make sense when you actually go to write the code. All right, here's our LBL message label, and what we're going to do is we're going to call up the click event on that particular object on the screen. In order to get there, the shortcut or the fastest way is to simply click on the object on the form. So I'm in Design View. I'm going to double click on my label, and this is the event window that pops up. Okay, so everything that appears between public class form 1 and end class is part of our code for this particular application. Everything that appears in between this private sub label message click event and end sub is the code we want it to run when you click on that particular label. So what we want to do here is real simple. We're going to simply type in me.lbl message.text, cap locks on there, text equals, let's change our message from hello world to, I don't know, goodbye world. That's not a very nice message. Let's just change it to goodbye. There we go. Alright, so now what's going to happen when we launch our program, it's going to start off with a window that looks like this, and in the middle it's going to say hello world. Then when we click on this label, it's going to change the message from hello world to goodbye. So let's launch it and give it a test. There's our hello world message. Click on the label and it changes it to goodbye. Now let's do a little bit more with this. What we can do is, again, I can go back to that click event by clicking on the label, or I can go way over to the right hand side here, and this is our project window, our Explorer window, and it shows us all of the parts that are associated with this particular project. But these two buttons here are going to be really handy for you. This one here, and you can see with the pop-up that pops up, a little pop-up message that pops up, and it shows this is our code view for the window, or for the application. And then this is our design view. Right now we're in design mode, and that's because you can see the form and all the objects that you placed on it. Let's just click on the code view, and it takes us right back here again. Alright, let's do a couple other things with this click event. On the click event, we've told it to change the text property of our label to goodbye. Well, let's do something else with it. Let's also make it move on the screen a little bit. So let's go me.lbl message.left equals 10. So let's quickly analyze what this is doing. The me itself, the me dot, refers to the form that you're currently looking at. So in this case, we're dealing with form 1. LBL message is the label that we created and we put on the form. So the label object itself belongs to the form, and .text is the property of the label, which is of the form. So we've got the text property of our label of our form. So this is what we've set it to. Goodbye. Now, this is a little bit different down here. Again, we're dealing with our form, me dot, and we have LBL message, same label, but now we're going to change its .left property. All .left means is where we are relative to the sides of our form. So if our .left property is a very small number, our label is going to be way over here. If our .left property is a big number, it means our label is going to be way over here. Okay, so all it is, you can think of it like the Cartesian coordinate system in math. You know, this is x with a low positive value, and as x increases, we're moving further away from that axis, from the y-axis. Alright, so let's give this a test. Now we've actually set our left value to 10, so it should move it pretty far to the left. It should move it very close to the side of our form. So we hit the play button. By default, here's our hello world right in the middle. Click on that, and hocus pocus, it's moved our label over and moved the word goodbye over. Alright, that's it for today. We're going to look at more of this tomorrow, and hopefully you stay tuned.